Good morning. I'm David. Welcome to week 45 of 52 churches in 52 weeks. This is a one-year spiritual challenge as we attend a new church each week. So if you want to join along, make sure to like and subscribe. Always appreciate the support. Some Sundays you just do not want to go to church. And I know that sounds terrible, even as I'm doing this spiritual project, but it's daylight savings time, so we lost an hour last night. And where I am right now, we're under a winter weather advisory. So the weather is absolutely miserable, and it's been miserable all week. And like some days though, you just have to force yourself to church. And so for today, I didn't want to be overstimulated with loud worship music, overthink with a sermon. I've had a few requests also to attend a Quaker meeting house, and I'm like, you know what? This weekend is perfect for that. When I did 52 churches in 52 weeks the first time, you can read about it on Amazon. I'll put the links in the description box below. I was very surprised at my first ever Quaker Religious Society of Friends type of meeting house service, because all you basically did is you took a seat and you were surrounded by people and you just prayed or meditated in silence for close to an hour. I didn't really know what to make of it the first time until I spoke with someone afterwards where he mentioned he grew up in a similar religious upbringing as I did. And with church, he kind of found it where it was more about worshiping God. With Quakers, he found that he could more commune with God. So for this Sunday, isn't technically a church, it's going to be a meeting house. But I want to re-experience it and kind of see for a second time how a religious society of friends, how a Quaker meeting house operates within a worship service under an unprogrammed type of service. I'm going to walk in here in just a little bit, and I'm not sure how to do this video because you're not going to hear any worship music or anything. But I'll be back in a moment after you experience the same sort of silence that I did. I don't know how to end this, but I'll be back. Oftentimes in these videos, one word will pop to mind to explain the whole worship service. And for this one, I actually had 4 pop in my head, and they all start with the letter S. So if I keep doing this, I may need to be sponsored by Sesame Street. But anyway, the 4 words was stillness, simplicity, spirit, and shh. Because with a Quaker meeting house, with a service, you have to be very, very quiet. So I'll try and expand on that in 3 different ways with before, during, and after the service and how that all fit in. So before service, I walked through the front door and I was greeted by a lady. And I let them know real early, hey, I'm visiting. Is there anything special that I need to do? And she gave me this name tag and asked if I could jot down my John Hancock on it. And that was interesting right from the get-go, because I noticed almost everyone here wore a name tag, and everyone else had pre-printed name tags on. So I wrote that down, I took my jacket off, and then I walked through this door that basically said that I was now entering the quiet zone. I walked into this room, and as a newcomer, it is very strange to walk into a Quaker room of complete strangers, not know anybody, and they're all just seated. I don't recall many people like bent over in prayer. Everyone that I remember was seated upright. So some had their eyes closed, some didn't. And then, like, the average age, I would probably say it was about 55, though there was some youth. And about a third of the congregation of the meeting had masks on. So I found a seat towards the back. I plumped my rump and basically bunkered down for the next hour to pray and basically be quiet, I guess. And what's interesting is how this room, it's designed to avoid distractions. So they had they had this huge window kind of overlooking this land preserve, which is really beautiful with all the nature. But inside, like, there's no decorations, there's no pictures. It's all very plain. And it was distracting with the seating arrangement because they had this blue, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange seating Denver Bronco color scheme going on. But at the same point, like, I found a seat. I was going to try as best as I could to pray and be quiet. So what's strange though is, like, there's no worship, there's no sermon, and there's supposed to be no distraction. But what happens is everything becomes a distraction. Like every creak of the door, every squeak of people walking in, even it would get distracting for me if someone was just kind of, moving in their seat a little bit like this. And I found out, like, it's very hard for me to fall asleep. And I kind of learned it's very hard for me to just get into that spiritual rhythm, to really just hone in on any kind of praying that I'm doing. Finally, after 40 minutes, a lady stood up. She stood up for about 10 seconds, almost like to give awareness to everyone's peripheral vision, I guess, that she was going to say something. So this is where my understanding is the Spirit speaks to us during this session. And oftentimes people will just speak whatever is in their heart. She was very poetic. She mentioned how there's a boathouse that has now become an Airbnb. And for people that are visiting, is it because they're special, or are they going there for the unique setting? So she transitioned this into their Quaker community, where it's like they are here part of a unique setting in this land reserve when it comes to what they're doing, so that they can be a community in quietness and also to share each other's joys and sorrows. So she only spoke for about 2 minutes, and then she sat down, and then everything was quiet again, all silent. So we stayed that way until, I want to say another 10 minutes. And then I think one of the leaders stood up, and she mentioned, okay, worship is about to conclude, but before we do that, we want to hear your sharings. One lady stood up. She mentioned, she had seen her first robin of the year. Another lady stood up and mentioned if she had heard, or if anyone in the community had heard about a friend who was about to undergo a surgery. And they finished it up with committees. So this was a community that was committed to committees. So they had committees for quilt making. They had a committee for feeding the hungry. The biggest, most popular one was the communications committee, where you could basically bring in any kind of technological device, and they would have a bunch of guys who would just kind of figure out and help solve whatever kind of ailment that you had. So a lot of the community, ages 55 to maybe 65, who didn't know how to, figure out their iPod or something, they could bring it there. So it ended with, they asked us to form 2 circles. One was an inner circle of about 8 people, and then the outer circle, my goodness, it had to be about 60 people. I was very surprised how big of a community this was. So we were asked to say our name, and if you were new, to give just a brief description of who you were. So we went around the room, and then my name came up. So I introduced myself, and I mentioned I'm on a 1-year spiritual adventure. And these people are hilarious. So one guy goes, "Did we pass?" And I think his wife said, "Hey, a D- is still passing." So this Quaker community was very, the sense of humor was very high here. After service, and it's weird to say service when you didn't say anything the whole time, I had a number of people come up to me, and we had some lengthy conversations. So the idea of coming as an introvert completely backfired on me, but I'm glad that I did. This was a very healthy community, and I'm glad that I made this visit. This visit was very strange to me, but in a good way. with those 4 S's, everything was so simple. It was very still. It was shh, and you're praying towards the Spirit. And with the Quaker way, and I should mention, it has deep roots within Christianity. But when it comes to praying, you're kind of praying towards this inner light, is what I heard. And so if you have different type of religious beliefs, there's no judgment here. So I know even for myself, it's like it's not a good fit. I just need more Christianity for myself. But I still consider this a hidden gem of a visit, just to see how everyone interacted with each other. There was so much unity. There was so much community here. Everyone seemed to enjoy each other's company, and everyone almost seemed to know each other. It was very much like a Cheers episode where it's like everybody knows your name. Probably helps with the name tags. But at the same point, I just really enjoyed to see how everyone interacted with each other here. And I just don't see that in very many churches nowadays. That's going to wrap up week 45. Hope you enjoyed this week's visit to the Quakers. For next week, I'm hoping to drive out to Georgia. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to swing that in a weekend trip. We'll have to see about that. But if you enjoyed the videos and want to join along for this spiritual series, make sure to like and subscribe. That always helps out. But until next time, hope you have a good one.